Okay, let's go. So the entire street is asleep. It's currently 2 o'clock in the morning. Almost everyone upstairs is in bed. No lights outside. I'm awake, and I'm awake because there's been a data dump from the DoD, emails, signal messages, documents released relating to communications between Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, Chris Mellon, David Grusch, and we're going to clear some things up. We've got some information that would put some things to bed, clarify some points, still some grey areas and other bits and pieces, but some fascinating stuff and some real interesting clarifications from Sean Kirkpatrick. So let's jump into it. So if you remember the very first kind of conflict between Grusch and Kirkpatrick that we saw was this whole Arrow trying to reach out to David Grusch saying that they've not bothered to contact me, who's telling the truth. And it was one of the very first things that we could verify through FOIA, because we can get the emails and find out if Kirkpatrick is telling the truth. Have they reached out to Grusch? Has Grusch just refused because he's making it all up and he doesn't actually want to be found out? Or is Arrow lying about it because they don't want to get his information because they'd have to investigate it and then spill the beans? So if you remember rightly, on the 31st of October 2023, News Nation put out a piece that they'd had from David Grusch, which essentially said, Arrow is lying. I have 0 emails or calls from them. That is a lie. Now, we know from all the data that's been released that the first email communication that we have between Arrow and David Grusch was on the 10th of November 2023. So David Grusch put his comments out on the 31st of October 2023, and the first email that we've got is the 10th of November 2023. So that would suggest that Grusch's statement is factually accurate. Interesting. So far, so good. Now, there are communications between Chris Mellon, who's clearly friends with David Grusch, because he's kind of communicating as a third party with Arrow Kirkpatrick. One of the interesting things about the communication is it's via Signal, which is an encrypted platform. Interesting that kind of CIA type intelligence people use it. Okay, that was new. It's clear that Grusch initially said to via Mellon to Kirkpatrick, all of the information is being presented to the ICIG. Go get it. You've got access to everything you need. Remember? Now, if we look here, we'll see that this signal message from Chris Mellon to Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, Mellon says, I spoke with Dave, and his first question was, why hadn't blank all this information from the ICIG? It is all there and fully documented to include confirmation the program is real from active cleared insiders. Now, here's the interesting bit. Kirkpatrick replies, DOJ has to release it since it's part of a criminal investigation. They haven't yet. He needs to come tell us separately from his criminal complaint. So there's two things there. First thing is Kirkpatrick wasn't telling the truth, or he was being disingenuous when he said, I've got access to everything that I need, everything and anything, all the clearances, all the access. I can go and get whatever I need.
Is it possible there is some secret program that you're just not aware of?
I don't think so. I have access to anything and everything I need. I have access to anything and everything I need.
Well, that's not entirely true, is it? Secondly, Kirkpatrick drops a bit of a bombshell here because he says that this was a criminal investigation. So Grusch's complaint is a criminal investigation. That's from Arrow. That's from Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. Next up, we've got some interesting bits here from, again, from Kirkpatrick, who says, hey, what is Rubio talking about? He's referencing a previous witness that provided testimony regarding the crash retrieval program. Those witnesses will not go to Arrow. They were asked to. So blue is Kirkpatrick, black and white is Chris Mellon. What they're referring to is this.
One of two things is happening here. Either they're telling the truth, and that is something that obviously would be the biggest story in human history, or we have people in really important positions of government who are crazy and who are out there making up stories and who are still in positions of importance. People who we entrusted to do some really important things for our country are saying some pretty incredible things that I think we have an obligation to take seriously and listen to. All I've said is we have people that have very high clearances, both today and in the past, who did really important work for our government or continue to do important work for the government, who have come forward with some claims about the U.S. having in the past recovered exotic materials and then reverse engineered those materials to make advances in our own defenses and technologies. I will say I find most of these people at some point, or maybe even currently, have held very high clearances and high positions within our government. So you do ask yourself, like, what incentive would so many people with that kind of qualification, these are serious people, have to come forward and make something up?
Now we see that Kirkpatrick isn't very happy with this. He says, do we have notes for their testimony, the program names, the owners, anything I can verify? And Mellon's kind of, I'm on vacation. I'll see what I can do when I get back. Definitely some program names. So that's also interesting. It is clear that some of the whistleblowers and some of the insiders don't trust Arrow. And there it is in black and white. They've gone directly to Congress. They've gone directly to people like Marco Rubio. Equally interesting. Okay, let's move on. So let's have a look at the timeline. So June 26, 2023, Arrow staff reached out directly for Grusch's contact details and extended an interview invitation with Grusch, which Grusch declined, allegedly. Now, this was the first kind of bit of contact or communication or attempts to get in contact with Grusch. Now, this was via a third party. There's no suggestion that this is a direct phone call or email to David Grusch. This is the CIA we're talking about here. Okay. They've got David Grusch's phone number. They've got his email address. They know where he lives. They can send him a letter. Okay, let's move on. June 28th, 2023. After Grusch's congressional testimony, Arrow saw any verifiable information he might have shared with Congress. Well, we saw before how that went. June 8th to 13th, 2023, initial contact was made with known associates of Grusch, urging them to have him speak with Arrow. I'm assuming that's going to be Chris Mellon. These efforts were declined during dialogue between Arrow's director and individuals close to Grusch. Again, Chris Mellon. And then we go to July 27, 2023, further attempts to arrange an interview through another associate of Grusch who was meeting him the following day. October 6, 2023, a secure call was made to encourage Grusch to participate in a formal interview. We don't know if that secure call was made to Grusch, to Grusch's lawyer, to an associate of Grusch, to Chris Mellon. We just don't know. October 6th, 2023. Again, this is after the statement made by Grusch to News Nation, I've had no calls and no emails. This was several months after that. So he's telling the truth. His information is accurate. So then November the 10th was the next bit of communication. Grusch agreed to be interviewed on November 14th after congressional staff urged him to cooperate. November 14, 2023, Grusch failed to appear at the scheduled interview, expressing his doubts about Arrow's authorization to handle classified information. Okay, let's get into that. So here is an email from David Grusch to Arrow. And he says specifically, has the OS provided a memo to also cover managed need to know MNTK, or whatever the hell that is, projects not directly reported to ODNI, CAP, CO. I don't know what half these acronyms mean, but it's clear that Grusch is saying he needs assurances, written assurances, that he will be protected. Now, why is this relevant? It's relevant because of a couple of things. One, he could go to prison if he provides information that is that secure, that protected. Simple as that. Simple as that. So that's one thing. The second thing is if he has to sign another NDA when he goes to give them the information and then they use that information, bear in mind people like Mario Woods, just the case that we know about, he's given evidence to Arrow, an incredible sighting that he experienced of a giant orb-like object near to his military base. He saw it. It's completely unexplainable as a balloon or a seagull or whatever. That didn't make it into the Arrow report, the Arrow historic report. I mean, that tells me that they're going to take his information and say, thanks very much for that. These people are all wrong. So if Grusch was to provide his information to Arrow, would they follow it up? Are they trusted? We've already seen that other whistleblowers and other people on the inside don't trust Arrow, and they go directly to Congress, people like Marco Rubio. So if Grusch goes there and he has to sign a new NDA, that's it. He's done. He gives the information to Arrow. Arrow just shovel it away and say, yeah, that's just, circular reporting, misidentified balloons, or SAPs, special access programs of conventional technology that we're working on. And then he now can't go to Congress and give other bits of information because he signed a fresh NDA. Well, you've given your information to a congressionally mandated Arrow, and that's it. Goodbye. Well, he doesn't want to do that. He wants the information to be used to spill the beans, essentially. Okay, so let's move on. So this one, I'm not sure who this is from. I can see that it's clearly Kirkpatrick is in blue. I don't know who is in black and white. But the in black and white says clearly some kind of a connection to Grusch, one of his associates. It says, I will, but why don't you call or text him? To which Kirkpatrick replies, I don't have contact info and I can only contact through the secure mechanism, so I'll need an email. Further, Mellon is stating that he spoke with him, and Grusch states that Arrow is not lawfully empowered organisation to receive this info. Now, we've seen before that Grusch is concerned that he doesn't have the appropriate protections to provide this classified information to this group, this organisation. He doesn't believe they've got the required kind of privileges in order to receive that information, and therefore he could be committing a crime. Kirkpatrick understands that clearly because he said it here. So Grusch is specifically asking for protections, written confirmation that he is protected to provide, need to know projects, information that's not directly reported to the ODNI. It doesn't appear that Arrow in their response emails are making it very, very clear that they cover that and that that's in written form. So essentially, they're not giving Grusch the assurance that he's asked for. Now, he's somebody that deals in classifications. He's been an Intel guy for many, many years. I don't think he's asking an unreasonable question. And he's got some, he's talking about some serious crimes, potentially misappropriating property, funds, shall we say, from the public, special access programs that are outside of congressional oversight, potentially people being harmed by the cover-up of reverse engineering and crash recovery. I mean, I don't think he's being unreasonable. He's kind of the biggest whistleblower that's ever come forward in this subject, and he's asking for a bit of paper with a signed thing that says, yes, you're protected. You're not going to go to prison for telling us. Okay, all right, let's move on. So Arrow put their report out in February 2024, so a couple of months ago. The first direct contact with Grusch was in November. We know that. So when I say direct, not via a third party, tell him to come in. I mean, the real contact, we will provide you these protections, come in and talk to us, and everything will be rosy. So 2-3 months later, they complete their entire initial report, put it out to the public. Nothing to see here. All misidentified, people, circular reporting, balloons, etc., etc. Anyway, so what we've learned is Grusch is telling the truth, that his statement that he made to News Nation is accurate, that he hadn't had contact until 10th of November, and that the statement was made in October the 31st, 2023. So he's telling the truth. He hadn't had a phone call or an email. We've learned that Kirkpatrick wants to know why people don't trust Arrow and why they're going directly to Congress. That's interesting. It's not just Grusch that doesn't trust them. I wonder why. We've learned that it was a criminal investigation that the ICIG was doing into Grusch's claims, the reprisal claims, the whistleblower reprisal claims. That's also interesting, that it is a criminal investigation, that they were investigating it criminally. Because if you remember way back when, they weren't admitting that it was a criminal investigation. They were just essentially looking into it. So that's where we are. Okay, that's it. I think we've covered it. I'm happy. I wanted to put it out there. I was going to send a number of different messages and Instagram posts and what have you. And I thought I'll just do a video and cover it and stick it out there. I'm going to go to bed now. Okay, I'm not going to go to bed. I'm going to do about 4 hours of editing. All right. See you later, guys. Take care.